Hello, welcome to my second video, Contempt Upon Investigation, and it's a take on that Herbert Spencer quote in the big book, Contempt Prior to Investigation. And I investigated a lot through the years, and I can't get with it. I just, it's not for me. Makes me feel sick, really. And I want to thank Quackaholics Anonymous. Man, that guy's channel. He actually is. I've been listening to him for years. He is the first video I'd ever found or come across that was critical of AA. You know, and is a big inspiration for me. And for him to actually shout me out like that, I mean, it's kind of funny to think about it like this. Like, he's kind of an old timer when it comes to this, and I'm a newcomer, so it felt good to for him to acknowledge me and give me a shout out. He's I don't think he's super witty and smart, and also funny. I don't know if you're trying to be funny, but it's you actually crack me up, you know, in a good way. You know, I'm laughing with you for sure. And it's funny that you mentioned Portland, Oregon. I'm from Portland, Oregon. I was born there and raised there for the most part, and I can't speak for Portland now, but Portland has always been pretty gritty. A lot of homeless teenage runaways and a lot of drugs and a lot of it's kind of grungy, you know. It helped kind of birth and foster that whole grunge movement, that in Seattle, you know. In any city on the I-5 corridor, Interstate 5, is going to have a lot of drugs because it goes straight from Mexico straight into those cities, and there's a lot of drugs to be had, a lot of heroin. I was a heroin addict when I was young. From the ages of 19 to like 21. And that's when I kind of got introduced to recovery. But I haven't done heroin in a long time. I quit heroin years ago. And I kind of did it on my own. You know, I just got sick of the consequences, and I just got sick of, you know, NA helped me a little bit, but NA was more detrimental to my mental health than anything. It was, I was exposed to a lot of just terrible people, you know, abusive sponsors and manipulative people, and that's why I really resonate with Quackaholics Anonymous when he talks about some of these sponsors and things like that, and how they hold you emotionally hostage and manipulate you and coerce you into these things, you know. So yeah, Portland. I kind of got off track. Portland. Now I know when they decriminalized drugs, it got bad. It did. A lot of people just went there for that. You'd go to parks, and it would be Arizona, Utah, Idaho, license plates, Montana, you know, just people from Colorado, people from all around went there because they could do drugs with impunity and not get in trouble. So it got pretty bad for a while, especially around the pandemic. And the homelessness got real bad, and there's a lot of violence and stuff, but I can't speak for it now. I've heard that they're starting to clean it up a little bit. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing though. I didn't agree with decriminalizing it, drugs. I think it was important for me to have consequences when I was doing drugs. It helped me, you know, going to jail sucks. You know, kicking opiates in jail really sucks, you know. And I would get in trouble for a syringe. I would have to go to jail for a syringe. You know what I mean? And it was just, this was back in 2000, 2001. And it sucked. I was always paranoid. I was scared to get in trouble, get caught. It was a big reason why I quit. That, and I'm just not a good criminal. I never was a good criminal. I'm not, I don't like to shoplift, you know, I don't like to do all that the hustle and bustle. I'm not a good hustler, you know. And, yeah. I kind of progressed into an, you know, I guess you would say alcoholic, because I don't really believe in the term anymore, alcoholic or addict, but I progressed into more, I think, abusing alcohol more than any other substance because it's available, it's legal, and I just liked it. I liked the social aspect. I'm kind of a bar drinker, you know, I drink in bars, and I like to just kind of get into trouble, do cocaine, meet weird chicks, weird people, start fight, whatever, just, you know, I was kind of wild. And I liked alcohol. I was kind of collegiate rowdy, you know, and I'm kind of fun, really, to be honest with you. A lot of people liked being around me. Bartenders loved me until they didn't, you know. Until I would get kind of wear on them after a while. But anyway, that was my take on Portland. I can't speak for it now because it's been so long. But I'm just going to talk about alcoholism, which I don't believe there is such a thing. It's an outdated term. I believe substance abuse disorder probably would fit the bill a little better. You know, I don't call myself a heroin addict because I don't do heroin. You know, I don't believe in heroinism or like, I'm gonna look at some notes here because I had to write some things down. I don't want to just wing it, you know. I don't have the desire to do heroin. I haven't been addicted to heroin in over 25 years. So I'm not going to call myself an addict. I'm just not. It doesn't make sense. Why would I do that? I'm done with it. I have no desire to do it, and I'll never go back to it. I don't call it opioidism. You know, it's just, I was addicted to it at one time, and now I'm not. It's as simple as that. You know, I used to be a skateboarder growing up for years. I don't skateboard anymore. So I'm not a skater. You know, I quit skateboarding, and I kind of have the desire to do it still, but I'm unwilling to suffer the consequences of falling on the unforgiving concrete. You know? So I'm not a skater. I like it, you know. I watch skate videos and stuff sometimes on YouTube, for nostalgic purposes, or just to see the development and the progression of it, because it's pretty amazing. But I'm not a skater. I wouldn't even. I don't have the right to say that. I don't skate, you know. So I don't drink anymore. And so I'm not an alcoholic. Why would I call myself one? It's unhealthy to keep calling myself that, you know. Why would I label myself something that I'm not? You know, the big book talks about being recovered, you know. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm recovered from it. So there might be a few things I agree with the big book on, but I'm not going to get into that right now. You know, I'll talk about AA is full of threats and fear mongering. You know, of course we all talk about how it brainwashes people. You know, they tell you that you can't do it alone. Oh, you can't do it alone. an addict alone is an addict in bad company, or it's like I enjoy my company a lot better than hanging out with you fucks in meetings. Like I cannot stand meetings. I I don't relate to what people are talking about. I don't like talking about the past. Like the old timers in AA just love talking about the past. When I got here washing ashtrays, and taking out the trash, and I would have to blah blah blah. They wouldn't. I'd keep the cotton in my ears and put it in my mouth and blah blah blah. It's like they love just sharing about themselves so much, man. In AA, they feel like the group is more important than the individual. That says a lot. It's more important to keep the group pure and the message of AA intact than the actual new guy that comes in. They don't actually give a shit about you. They care about their precious AA, and keeping the message pure and all this stuff. And their ideology and beliefs are more important than you. It's just plain and simple. And think about it. What is a group? It's a bunch of individuals. It's a bunch of people who don't care about each other except themselves. It's just like, it's so weird. It's the weirdest cult. My mother, God rest her soul, she always warned me about cults. She would talk about cults. Because growing up in Oregon, we had the Bhagwan, and we had, the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, or whatever his name is. And there's Jim Jones around, I was born in 1980, so there's some of these things happen around that time. She just always warned me of cults. Like, beware of cults, cult think, religion a little bit as well. I didn't grow up religious at all. It's kind of nice, kind of free, because a lot of people have a chip on their shoulder about that stuff, and I don't. I'm not against it either, because I've got no ill toward it at all. It's never, I'm just kind of like letting bygones be bygones or something. I don't care. The thing about AA is always, I might have mentioned this, is always threatening us with death. That's death threats. Aren't death threats like illegal? Can't you get in trouble for death threats? It's like, I don't threaten people with death. It's how can they get away with it? It's so weird. The 12 and 12 in Tradition 9, they talk about death warrant. You sign your own death warrant. And jails, institutions, and death. Resentment is infinitely grave. Like resentments are gonna kill us or something. They destroy us. They have the power to kill. And I have resentments. It's funny. Like sometimes instead of counting sheep, I just count resentments. That motherfucker, that piece of shit, whatever. That doesn't kill me. I think it's kind of funny. It's not that big of a deal. The big book tries to bully you. With this resentment stuff, and I don't like bullies. I've never liked bullies. I've always tried to stand up to bullies. Sometimes I get my ass kicked, but I would stand up to bullies. I just, it's kind of my duty, it feels like. And I don't like bullies. I never have. I don't like people trying to bully me into shit. And I shared a little bit about this in my last video about going, resentments and amends and stuff like that. Like going to people, having to make amends to people that have harmed you and maybe abused you or traumatized you is sick. I can't think of anything more disgusting than that, Show them patience. They are sick people, I don't need to show them patience. I just need to get the fuck away from them. Keep them out of my life, Never trust them again. I don't want to go to them at all. Another thing that I'll touch on is AA tries to, especially in like steps 6 and 7. I've done all the steps. I've read the book. I'm well versed in all that stuff, and I will get into the big book. And I'm thinking about just like going through it from time to time and talking about the hypocrisies and just the fake lying in it and the abuse. So like step 6 and 7, they want you to have these ideals, right? And having ideals is dangerous, okay? When I have ideals, I'm constantly struggling with myself. I'm constantly like kind of a constant conflict and confusion about who I am. Oh, I want to be this like patient, tolerant, loving, kind, generous, all this stuff, which I am, I'm not just like a selfish, self-centered prick. I can be at times, just like all humans can, but I'm that's why I left AAs, because I'm not as, I hate to say it, but I'm not as bad as a lot of those guys. They are mind-boggling when it comes to the narcissism and the self-centeredness and self-obsession. I just, and their lack of awareness or something. I don't know. When I'm constantly trying to strive for these ideals, it's like I don't trust myself. And I'm always hard on myself. I'm always just kind of like, it's a breeding ground for insecurity for me. Just to be constantly insecure. And my confidence will just be completely low when I'm trying to strive for these ideals. And it's like I have nothing to be proud of. I'm just a piece of shit that needs AA to get better, and I pray to God to remove these defects of character, and here I am still, I'm just a piece of shit, I can't seem to get rid of these character defects, and I just got to keep, chugging away in AA, and when I have nothing to be proud of, I'm ripe for just being a slave. I've got nothing. I can be a slave to AA. It's perfect. It's perfect for them. AA needs slaves. It's what they need. It's what they, it doesn't run without it. They need someone to tell them. People need, in AA need someone to tell them who they are, they just rely on this identity of the alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a recovered alcoholic, or I'm a recovering alcoholic. That's my identity. And they just never let it go. And it's the hill they're dying on. And I'm just an alcoholic, and that's why I act like this. And, they just use it as an excuse. It's just terrible, Since I left AA, and I didn't just leave AA. I've kind of, it's been a couple of months in the making, but this is it's like official, and I'm making videos about it now. And it I'm like, I feel like I'm becoming a part of a community with all these other deprogrammers. You know what I mean? It feels good because, you know, I think half the reason why I did go to AA sometimes is for the community. Searching for the community, I could never find it. You know, I just never felt like I was a part of it. You know, I tried every avenue of AA, the open meetings, the open discussion meetings where people would just vomit and spew whatever crap, talking about their headlights or their dog or their PO and just their boss and blah, 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 just whining and bitching about stuff. And it's so hard to endure. And I'd go to the closed big book meetings where it was just straight up big book, straight out of the big book, not sharing from the heart at all. And it's just straight up fundamental big book stuff. And I gravitated to that a little bit more because I do tend to I desire structure. I grew up with a very chaotic, dysfunctional upbringing, you know? So I do kind of crave some kind of structure in my life. One thing I did notice is that I would feel the best while I was at work. I have a retail job and I work with a bunch of people, and everybody there is really nice and seems healthy for the most part, and I feel good around them, you know, and I'm happy there. And I would go to AA meetings and I would feel the vibration, the frequency there was just so low and shitty, and like I would feel sick. And oh, your job is your higher power. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not my higher power. I go to my job because I got to pay bills. I have money. I need to have money. You know? It's just the fact that you guys suck so bad in AA that I'd rather be at my job and, you know, talking to these people at work that don't share their disgusting lives and don't have an identity of being sick, you know. They're normal people, and I feel normal around them because I am normal, you know. I'm not an alcoholic. I have substance abuse disorder, and I'm no longer using substances, and I have no desire to. And I don't believe in the big book saying that I'm going to have like this mental blank spot and I'm just going to stumble onto a drink or into a bar or you know, and I don't obsess about drinking or using anything. It's just not there. One thing about substance abusers that are no longer abusing substances, like in AA, they're not abusing substances anymore, so they have to abuse something. And that's each other. They're abusing each other, and they're using each other like a drug. And it's sick, you know? They do it to make themselves feel better, to inflate their egos, and which they say they're trying to deflate, but they're not. They're trying to inflate their egos. They use you, especially new people, as a way to feel better about themselves, you know? As if they need more inflation, you know? Their egos are already just catastrophic. It's really gross. What else do I want to talk about? I think that might be it for the night. I've got some other things. I'm going to talk about how people celebrate AA anniversaries and sobriety day. You know, I'll talk about that someday. And I'm going to have the topic of willing to go to any lengths. That's a good one. I like to run that by some people. And, yeah. I just want to thank Quackaholics Anonymous again, man. You really are kind of like a good dude. You're a good dude. Yeah. You're funny. You're witty. You've got the experience that I've gone through as well. And I appreciate you. Yeah, that and Sober Bestie, I think is her name. The blonde chick, she's got some good stuff. And there's another woman. Oh gosh. I forget her name, so I'm not going to even try to just spew out some random names. But I'm excited to be a part of this community, and I'm going to post videos, you know, pretty often. Probably almost every day for a little while, because I'm just kind of hot right now, you know what I mean? So, and then I'll probably maybe once a week or something like that. Who knows? I'm not going to really try to plan it too much. I'm just going to fly by the seat of my pants and just go with it. All right, guys, thanks. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I also want to talk someday about some suggestions on being sober and not abusing substances. Because I don't want to just shit on AA and not have any kind of solution for people, or have any kind of, you know, recommendations. Because I do. I've got experience, and there are some things out there. And I'm going to investigate some other avenues as well that I've never been to, like Smart Recovery. I've never been to Smart Recovery. I plan on going to one of those meetings or some meetings of that, and maybe giving like a video review or whatever, you know. Maybe Rational Recovery, I've heard of that. There's some other things out there that I've never been to, and I want to check it out and give a review and an honest opinion about that stuff as well. So, okay, guys. Hope you're doing well, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.